Hi, welcome, I'm Simon. Today's video I wanted to show you my new hot air rework station. And more specifically, I wanted to show you whether it's any good for removing through-hole components. Traditionally, it would seem that hot air rework stations are for surface mount components, i.e. those bits that sit on top of the board and actually don't go through it. But because I've had such a hell of a time trying to remove through-hole components without causing damage on some of these old fragile motherboards, it got me thinking, would a hot air station help me do that? So before I jump into that, I just thought I'd show you through my machine, see what you think of it. Feel free to comment. I've no experience of using one of these before, so it's not a review per se. But I thought it'd be nice to show you what I've got and some of its features. If you like what I do and you enjoy my content, please remember to give me a thumbs up and a subscribe if you'd like to see some more. In the meantime, let's have a look at the machine and then we'll go on and have a look at just how good the machine is at removing chips and stuff from motherboards. So this is it. This is a YIHUA, if I pronounce that correctly, 968DA+3. It's described as a 2-in-1 rework station with the hot air wand we've got there. Nice, soft, flexible silicone hose, which should hopefully help protect any accidental damage from the hot air itself if you were careless, or the soldering iron, and a 60-watt iron as well. Part of the reason I went for this unit is not only because it got hot air, but it's also got the fume extractor on the tip. There's pros and cons to that, which I found out using it. One of the pros is obviously that it really does a great job at removing the solder fumes, but the downside is it can be a little bit trickier on space where you're trying to work in a confined area. I've run into that issue a couple of times using it, but the vast majority of the time it's absolutely fine. The only other thing that I'd say about this is, with it having this additional fume extractor on the side, you can't really, well, I can't think of a way at this moment in time to just put a better grip on it that just keeps the heat out your fingers. With prolonged use, I've noticed it does get quite warm. So that's something to bear in mind. The unit itself, I think, looks quite smart. Obviously, this side here, we've got the connections for the soldering iron, which I don't know if I mentioned, I think is down as 60 watt. Nice good connection on it, and it's got 5-pin connector on it. You can't put it on the wrong way, obviously. Let's put that back on. Here you've got power controls, the left one's for the soldering station, which makes sense because we've got the temperature control dial on the left, and on the right we've got the power switch for the hot air wand. And down at the bottom we've got a separate toggle switch for the fume extractor for the soldering iron, so you don't have to have it on if you don't want it. Back of the unit, which I won't bother showing you, there's just a simple power switch, which when we turn it on, the display comes on and just sort of like flashes lines and to suggest it's in standby mode, ready to be powered on. Slight hum from the transformer inside, and depending on your preference, we've got degrees Celsius and Fahrenheit, which I've no idea what Fahrenheit is, so mine will always be in Celsius, but you may have a different preference, obviously. The soldering iron itself, I'll just turn, the pumps come on because I've got it turned on. I'll turn the pump off for the smoke absorber fume extractor. You see it heats up quite quickly. One thing I like about this is rather than it being on buttons, it's a dial, and it goes from 200 all the way up to 480, I think, which is good. And then you've got the real temperature there as it's increasing. And there we go, it's up to temperature. I'll just save it getting, I'll just save it. I'll just turn it down, turn it off, whatever. But yeah, if just in terms of the smoke absorber, you'll hear the noise from that, and it is a little bit noisy as the unit. That's on the lowest airflow. You can turn it right up and it's going to get noisier than that. So if noise is an issue, you might want to think again. I've ordered some foam, which I'm going to stick inside. It's some noise insulation foam. I'm going to give that a whirl. You get quite a bit of resonance on the case. If I hold it, you'll hear the noise reduce somewhat considerably. It's screwed together nice and tight, so I'm going to try sticking some noise insulating foam inside. Not too much, obviously, because I don't want other things inside to overheat. But I'm going to give that a whirl at a later date. So I can turn the airflow up. You'll hear the noise increasing with the pump inside. That's on full. Just notice that resonance of the case again. So that's it on full power. I'll just get the wand. And you can probably hear, I'm not going to put my fingers near it, but you can probably hear the air being drawn through the tip, or the end of the tip as it were. So that's all good. So I'll turn that off, and I'll just turn the airflow back down. And then the right hand side, we've got the controls for the hot air station. So that's with it on minimum. It's anywhere from 100, turning it all the way up, and it'll go up to 480. And if you want, you can have both on at the same time, should that be what you want to do. Yep, that's definitely very hot. Once again, I'll turn the fume extractor on with the soldering iron. So with that all turned up, it's still annoying me, it's a bit rattly. But that's pumping out a fair bit of heat. I'm going to turn that down before I start cooking the monitor in the background. Turn the airflow down, and if I turn it off, it will keep going, and you'll see the temperature start to drop. Keeps the air flowing, stops the gun overheating, I suppose, the wand, whatever you want to call it, which I guess is a good thing. So that's it cooled down. There's also worth mentioning, if I can undo this. So this is the extraction line for the soldering iron. Inside there, there's a little filter. You can see it's picked up a few bits and pieces already. And if memory serves me right, it comes with a few spare ones. So that's all good. The only thing is you might want to see is the soldering iron holder itself. It's pretty good. It's all metal. Take the iron out. It's all metal. Plenty of space to hold a couple of reels. Yeah, it's a soldering iron holder. So this machine here is one of the reasons why I've decided to invest in that hot air rework station. If you've not seen the video, I'd highly encourage you to watch it. You may learn something as much as what I did making the video. But this and other Spectrums that I've worked on and ZX81s, the boards are just unbelievably fragile. It's so easy to lift a through hole or a trace and cause damage then that you've then got to go back and obviously repair as part of the process, unfortunately. So my thought process was, well, why not try hot air? See what that's like for moving through hole components. So this board in here, you'll get to see shortly me working on with the hot air station. I've decided it's scrap, so I can practice on this without worrying too much. I can learn how to use the hot air station, in effect, without worrying about too much about the consequences. And hopefully, have it as a method of being able to remove the chips on the board without causing further damage. There's all sorts of other techniques that people use, cutting the chips off, cutting the legs off, and then just desoldering each leg individually. But I wanted to give this a try. So the main focus of this video is what's it like using a hot air station with this old tech. So let's stop waffling, let's see how I get on with it. So here's the motherboard. You've just seen me hopefully remove the rest of the lower RAM and the upper RAM ICs. And the great news is, and I'll zoom in hopefully and you get to see round the board, none of the traces have been lifted. I've caused no damage to the wires. Everything has come away perfectly. If I'd been doing this with a soldering iron, that wouldn't be the case. I'd have lifted something, I'd have caused damage somewhere, I'd have to go in and repair to some degree or do a bodge wire, whatever. There is no way I would remove all those, 16 ICs and not cause damage to the board. I'll flip it over and I'll show you the other side as well. Now, if you see the discoloration here, I didn't film this at first, and so apologies for that. But you'll see I've really gone at it with the heat from the gun and it's discoloured the board. I can't see it's caused any damage to it, but nevertheless, it's certainly caused discoloration, which isn't ideal. So when I've gone to do the RAM ICs, which are these here and here, yes, all the holes need clearing still, which is a relatively simple job to removing the chips themselves. I've managed not to discolour the board, and there's no damage on the underside either, which to me is just it's a massive win. And unless you've worked on one of these, you really won't appreciate just how fragile they are, and they just break for fun, or at least they do with me with a soldering iron. Now, I'm not trying to teach you how to use a hot air station, I'm only just learning myself, but I used a medium-sized nozzle. I thought I don't want the airflow to be too fast, which I thought I would get using a smaller nozzle. I wanted it to cover more or less the width of an entire chip, so it's heating up both sides simultaneously nicely. And I turned the air up to about 380 degrees and put it on a moderate flow. Removing the CPU IC there, I had the hot air on a similar temperature, but I had the airflow turned right down, so it took a lot longer for the board to heat up, and as such I was going around the board more and more and more. It took a lot longer. I think for me it worked better to have a moderate airflow, a decent temperature, and that worked fine for the smaller ICs. If I was to do that again, I'd turn the temperature up probably, and see if I could get heat into the board quicker, get the chip removed rather than a prolonged period of putting heat into the board. Whether that would have worked or not, I don't know, but that's my thought process anyway. Feel free to comment on anything that I say. I'm not claiming to be an expert. This is just my experiences, which I'm sharing with you, and I'll continue to share in future videos as well. And I'm more than happy to share my mistakes with you. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is my new hot air rework station, and I'm really pleased with it, and I'm sure it'll feature in many more of my upcoming videos. So please let me know what you think of this video in the comments. I'd be delighted to know what you thought of this. And as always, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing and giving me a thumbs up. It is so much appreciated. I'm Simon. Thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.